Well, good morning, everybody. And as we get going here with this Friday edition of our Morning Minute, I think the National Radar animation is probably the most important thing to be looking at here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off last night and just show you the evolution of the storms. So what we were watching was our typical southeast daily storms. Some of these put down very heavy rainfall. Texas, very interesting. Some of these storms actually came out of the east and moved toward the west, delivering much needed rain to this particular area. Now, there's a problem. The rain came through. It's fantastic, but the temperatures, again, today and through the foreseeable future just keep hitting that triple-digit mark, which means we lose a lot of this moisture through evaporation. But there is rain that made it in there. And what it's doing is it's curling into this larger ridge that's sitting over the Four Corners states, promoting the active southwest monsoon. So lots of storms here. But in the Midwest, the storm clusters that came through the Red River Valley of the North last night penetrated much of this central Corn Belt. Look at this. This is early this morning. This was not well forecast. Okay, the models are having they just have a difficult time predicting this rainfall. And if you notice, this is a very broad shield of rain this morning that moved through eastern Iowa, came out of Minnesota, hit southern Wisconsin, and is moving through Illinois. And it needs to just keep going in this direction. And so these rains are desperately needed for a lot of this area, and we're going to have to watch it very carefully. In fact, if you watched my video last night, we were contemplating the success of these storms surviving the night. And here's the newest high-res NAM data. So if we just start this off, let's get here to our current time, about 8 o'clock in the morning. These storms then move into Indiana. That's round one. We need this to occur today, bringing in moisture to that very dry part of Indiana. Scattered convection to the south, storms rolling off the plains. Today's severe risk is going to primarily be up in parts of Montana. And then what we'll watch is another potential round of storms overnight tonight hitting east central Illinois, coming into Indiana, Ohio, southern Michigan. Again, all areas that need it. Now watch. The storms rolling off the monsoon could come into the central plains as well. And if those storms do manifest in that area, that would be another round of much needed precipitation. They will be the seed, okay? The outflow from these will be the seed for the storms that could come through Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, getting into Saturday night, Sunday. If that verifies, this could really work hard on some of the drought that's developed in that area. So looking at the last 30 days, percent of normal precipitation. I know we've looked at this a lot, but what you just saw is the storms coming through here, a second round doing this, and if that occurs, that could really deliver a lot of needed precipitation. Overall, how well was that forecast? As I said, not very well. It's a very tricky thing to kind of see where these thunderstorm clusters go. And as you also saw, the region we are most concerned about here, while there's been some scattered storms in central Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, southern Missouri, this is the area that needs more. I've got better news for what's going to happen here in parts of New England. And we will see better storm action coming through the Midwest into the southeast, because over the next 7 days, the pattern is going to be dominated by that Canadian storm track. In fact, we're going to watch early next week a big low roll right through the Canadian prairie. This is primarily what's forecast now and through Sunday, stalled out frontal boundary over the southeast. But these storm systems that come through, they're going to just eventually culminate in the northeast, bringing in much needed rain from Pennsylvania all the way to Maine. And there's a lot of places there that have been drier. But our main concern just keeps coming back to this part of the southern plains in Texas, excuse me, in the Mid-South, where drought has, it's really got a grip on what's going on there. And here's one of the bigger problems. That's where the ridge is currently sitting. And in today's report, I kind of go through the details of what has to happen to break away from this pattern. I talk about Alaska, I talk about the Hudson Bay, we talk about this subtropical ridge, and then split flow coming in the Pacific as being possibilities of changing things up, as well as tropical systems, both from the Pacific or the Atlantic, one or the other. Those are all possible game changers, but in the near term, take a look at this 500 millibar height animation. Through the weekend into early next week, I got a nice low that's going to cut through the Canadian prairie, but the ridge stays in place. So that's all the way up to next Wednesday, into next Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It just seems to sit there, and in fact, it tries to expand a bit to cover more of this part of the United States. So in addition to already seeing what the precipitation is going to do, take a look at what the temperatures are doing. So today's high is 106 in Kansas. This is all just cloud cover and cooler from the rain. Same thing for the southeast. But as the weekend goes on, there's Saturday's highs getting into Sunday. This is Sunday. 103 in parts of Montana, upper 90s in North Dakota, 100 stretched down the plains. This is just rain cool there here. But that heat, this is Monday, getting into Tuesday. We're going to possibly see early next week temperatures, we'll just kind of circle an area here, that could hit over 110 Fahrenheit. That's not heat index, that's just the temperature. And that's going into now Wednesday and Thursday. So you notice there is almost no break in the central part of the United States. And we've been watching that carefully by looking at these animations here, this 5-day sliding window of temperatures. And why we do this is because the ensembles capture the pattern very well, much better than an individual model run. So if something was going to break down, we often get our first hint of that through the ensemble. And I just played out for you through the end of July, and you notice that much of the country through the Canadian prairie is going to experience above normal temperatures during that time period. So it's going to be a question of where's the rain, where is it delivered, and as we just discussed over the next week, the biggest concern is going to be how far into Missouri and then points south and west of there do we get that moisture in place, as this is the place that's seen the greatest risk of drought and heat. Now, speaking of drought and heat, I do want to keep your attention on Europe. Extremely hot temperatures from Spain and Portugal through France up into the UK, but also getting into parts of Germany and much of southern Europe. While, this part of Western Russia, Eastern Europe is still under the influence of a broader trough. So highly amplified pattern here. And that's setting up this 10-day precipitation outlook. So very hot and very dry throughout much of Europe. Even parts of Ukraine are showing up dry. But there are better chances of storms in parts of Western Russia and right in through this region as well. But outside of that, overall, quite dry. If you do get a chance today, please read through the report. Got just what I hope to be some very useful information in there, including a discussion about the new 11-month outlook for the potential here of La Nina really strengthening. It looks like throughout our fall, but winter is going to spell a different story, and I put in some details about what to expect out of that. Hope you all have a good weekend, and I'll talk to you again on Monday. Thank you.